Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive?
Always.
Okay, great. So, tonight we're looking at the 2024 election
Mm-hmm.
and specifically how the candidates are trying to win over Latino voters. And things are getting kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Right, we've got some huge GE names from pop culture in the mix. We're talking Bad Bunny, J-Lo,
Wow.
even Nicki Jam getting awkwardly misgendered by Trump.
All right.
So this is all from a Washington Post article. It's really cool, actually. It's like a mix of political reporting and entertainment news.
Really?
Yeah, it's the perfect recipe for a wild ride, right?
Yeah, what I think is fascinating about this whole thing is how much influence pop culture seems to be having.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just about policy anymore. It's about connecting with these voters on a cultural level.
Totally.
Especially with a demographic as diverse and influential as the Latino community.
Exactly. And this Washington Post piece dives right into that. They're focusing specifically on Puerto Rican voters.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is smart, considering they could swing the election in those key battleground states.
Absolutely. Their vote is especially crucial in a state like Pennsylvania.
Right.
Which has a significant Puerto Rican population.
Exactly. And the article highlights Kamala Harris. She's hitting the campaign trail hard,
Right.
in Philadelphia, which, of course, has a huge Puerto Rican community.
Okay.
They even mention her stopping by a local Puerto Rican restaurant.
Cool.
And getting the whole crowd chanting, "Si se puede."
Oh, wow.
So she seems to be, really trying to connect with those voters, right?
Yeah, that level of engagement is key, especially given, the historical voting patterns of Puerto Ricans in Pennsylvania.
Okay.
While they have traditionally leaned Democrat, recent elections have shown a bit of a shift towards Trump,
Interesting.
making them a vital demographic for both parties.
So we're already seeing this tug of war for their vote playing out, right?
Yeah.
On the one hand, you have Harris actively engaging with the community, and then she releases this campaign video specifically outlining her vision for Puerto Rico.
Interesting.
Yeah. Improving healthcare, affordable housing, rebuilding the energy grid, it's all in there.
Right. That video release seems strategically timed, particularly considering it coincides with a pretty major endorsement.
Oh, yeah.
Bad Bunny throwing his support behind Harris.
Oh, absolutely. You won't believe this. Bad Bunny shared Harris's campaign video with his 45.6 million Instagram followers. I mean, talk about reaching a massive audience, especially young Latinos who, aren't always the easiest to get to the polls.
Right.
Could this actually be the game changer Harris needs?
The potential impact is huge. Bad Bunny is arguably one of the biggest music stars globally, and his influence among young Latinos is undeniable.
Totally.
Campaigns often struggle to mobilize that demographic.
Right.
So this could be a major turning point.
And it's not just him. J-Lo and Ricky Martin also shared the video, adding their star power to the mix. When you combine the reach of all three, you're talking about a potential audience of over 314 million followers.
It's a staggering number.
Yeah.
It really highlights the power of celebrity in modern politics.
Totally.
But what makes Bad Bunny's endorsement even more interesting is that, Puerto Ricans on the island can't actually vote for president.
Oh, right. And he's usually focused on Puerto Rican politics.
Yeah.
So this move to endorse a U.S. presidential candidate is a real departure for him.
Exactly. This makes his endorsement even more significant, It suggests he sees this election as having implications far beyond just U.S. borders.
Okay, yeah.
And let's not forget, he's been critical of Trump in the past.
Definitely.
Remember that benefit concert,
Yeah.
Somos Live, for Hurricane Maria relief?
Oh, yeah.
Bad Bunny showed up wearing a shirt that read, "Are you a tweeter or president?"
Oh, wow.
Clearly taking a jab at Trump. And then there were those pretty pointed lyrics in his 2020 song. This is a major departure for Bad Bunny.
Yeah.
He's known for his music, not political activism. What do you think this says about, the urgency of this election?
Oh, wow.
Is it becoming impossible for artists to stay silent?
It's an interesting question, isn't it? Maybe this election is becoming less about traditional politics.
Yeah.
And more about cultural figures taking a stand.
It's definitely a trend we're seeing more and more.
Yeah.
Celebrities using their platforms to engage with political issues.
Speaking of taking a stand, let's move on to Trump's rally in New York City, because things got a little messy there. This comedian, Tony Hinchcliffe, was a guest speaker,
Okay.
and he made some incredibly offensive comments about Puerto Rico being a floating island of garbage.
Oh, no.
I know, right?
Those comments sparked a lot of controversy.
Yeah.
Particularly given that the rally was held in New York City,
Right.
which has a huge Puerto Rican population.
Right. And it wasn't just that one remark. Hinchcliffe went on to make some pretty vulgar generalizations about Latinos.
Oh, well.
Which obviously led to some serious backlash.
Oh, yeah. The backlash was swift and fierce.
Mm-hmm.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, she's of Puerto Rican descent herself.
Right.
She was understandably furious.
Yeah.
She even took to Twitch
Really?
to encourage Puerto Ricans to vote and, make their voices heard.
Wow, that's powerful.
It is.
And she wasn't the only one speaking out either.
Right.
Tim Walz-Harris's running mate, he also condemned Hinchcliffe's comments.
Of course. And you know what's interesting?
What's that?
This incident even caused division within the Republican Party itself.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you had prominent Republicans like Representative Maria Elvira Salazar
Okay.
and Senator Rick Scott publicly denouncing Hinchcliffe's words.
Wow.
Which just goes to show how sensitive of an issue this is, even within the same party.
Yeah, it seems like those comments really touched a nerve.
They did.
And of course, the Trump campaign tried to distance themselves from the whole thing.
Yeah.
Danielle Alvarez, a senior advisor, she put out a statement saying that Hinchcliffe's joke didn't reflect Trump or the campaign's views at all.
Definitely some damage control going on there.
Yeah.
But it makes you wonder, how much will these comments and the backlash they caused actually affect the race for the Latino vote?
That's a good question.
It seems like both campaigns are taking very different approaches to win over this crucial demographic.
It's true, and Pennsylvania is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
It's a crucial battleground state with a large Puerto Rican population.
Right.
And both Harris and Trump are vying for their support.
Interesting.
Harris seems to be focusing on policy, outlining specific plans for Puerto Rico, while Trump is relying more on endorsements and rallies.
It's fascinating to see those strategies play out side by side.
Totally.
And speaking of endorsements, let's not forget Trump's attempts to secure support from some big-name Puerto Rican artists.
Oh, right. Like that awkward incident with Nicky Jam.
Oh, yeah.
Where Trump misgendered him on stage.
Oh, gosh. That misgendering drew a lot of negative attention.
Yeah, I bet.
Nicky Jam actually ended up taking down his endorsement post.
Really?
After fans bombarded him with criticism.
Wow.
It even prompted Maná, a popular Mexican rock band that had collaborated with Nicky Jam, to pull their song from streaming platforms in protest.
Oh, wow.
They explicitly stated that Maná does not work with racists.
Wow. That's a pretty strong statement.
It is.
It definitely seems like celebrity endorsements can backfire in a big way if they don't align with the artist's image and values.
It's a double-edged sword, right?
Yeah.
While an endorsement from a beloved figure can sway voters, a misstep like that can alienate them just as quickly.
For sure.
It all comes down to authenticity and whether the endorsement feels genuine.
And sometimes it's not even about a direct endorsement, but more about reminding voters of past actions.
Okay.
Like that powerful Mark Anthony ad for Harris.
Yeah.
It didn't explicitly tell people to vote for her, but it did highlight Trump's response to Hurricane Maria.
That ad was very effective.
Yeah.
It tapped into shared values and experiences.
Right.
Particularly the feeling of being abandoned by the government in a time of need.
Yeah.
And that's something that resonates deeply with many Puerto Rican voters, especially in the aftermath of Hurricane Maria.
So we're seeing these two very different approaches playing out.
Yeah.
Targeted policy promises from Harris versus leveraging star power from Trump.
It's interesting.
Which one will resonate more with Puerto Rican voters?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And the answer could very well determine who wins Pennsylvania.
Right.
And potentially the entire election.
It's like a political thriller unfolding in real time.
It really is.
With music superstars and comedians becoming key players.
This election cycle really exemplifies how intertwined pop culture and politics have become.
For sure.
It's not just about policy anymore.
Right.
It's about relatability, connecting with voters on a cultural level, and creating a narrative that resonates.
And the Washington Post article points out that Trump is still trying to rally support from other Puerto Rican artists.
Oh, really?
Like Annual AA and Justin Quiles.
Okay.
He even brought them on stage at a Pennsylvania rally recently.
But the question remains, is it enough?
Yeah.
Will these endorsements be enough to sway voters who might already be disillusioned by some of Trump's past actions, particularly his response to Hurricane Maria?
That's a good question. It's fascinating how something like a celebrity endorsement or even a comedian's off-color joke can have such a significant impact on the political landscape.
It really is.
It really highlights the power of influence and the importance of representation in this election.
It really does, and this raises an interesting question for you to consider.
Okay.
How much weight do you give to celebrity endorsements when making your own political decisions? Are you more likely to support a candidate because your favorite artist is backing them?
Interesting.
That's something worth thinking about.
It's like we've been saying this whole time. You know, this deep dive has really given us a glimpse into this complex web of politics and pop culture and the fight for the Latino vote.
Yeah, it's not just about policies anymore.
Right.
It's about who can connect on a cultural level.
And we can't forget about the power of those individual stories,
Right.
like the people impacted by Hurricane Maria.
Of course.
Their experiences and perspectives add another layer of complexity to this whole election.
Absolutely. Those personal narratives often get lost in the noise of the campaign,
Yeah,
but they are incredibly important.
for sure.
They remind us that these political decisions have real-world consequences for everyday people.
It's definitely a lot to think about, but before we wrap up, I have one final thought.
Sure.
Could Bad Bunny's endorsement be a turning point? Could he actually be the key to mobilizing young Latino voters in a way we haven't seen before?
That's a question worth pondering.
Yeah.
It's still too early to say for sure what the long-term impact of his endorsement will be. But one thing's for certain, this election is far from over.
Right.
We're in for a wild ride, and who knows what surprises are still in store.
Well, one thing's for sure, we'll be watching closely.